Peak Design stole my idea because 3 years ago, I released this video where I explained how to turn your small camera cube into a sling, and all you needed was a Peak Design slide. It got 15,000 views and photographers seemed to really like it. But 2 years later, Peak Design stole my idea and marketed the extra small camera cube as a sling. But is the extra small camera cube any good as a sling? And who should get it? But putting aside my marketing genius, let me show you how to turn the extra small camera cube into a sling. It's a super easy process, and it starts with attaching these anchors to the endpoints of this cube itself. And then once you do that, all you have to do is get a Peak Design slide and then attach it to these anchors, and then boom, you have a sling. I like this setup because it's really easy to actually turn this setup into a sling and then back into an extra small camera cube. It's a very, very hassle-free process. But in my mind, the extra small camera cube definitely makes more sense to be used as a sling over the small camera cube. And the reasoning for this is that I felt the small camera cube was simply too big. It felt kind of awkward against my body when I was wearing it, and it just wasn't natural as it didn't contour to my body very well. And another big reason for the awkwardness of the small camera cube as a sling is that it can also hold quite a bit of gear, which makes it weigh a lot more. And this ended up causing the ends of the cube to break because of the weight, because a small camera cube simply wasn't designed to be used as a sling. And this is why I actually stopped recommending using the small camera cube as a sling over a while, because I just felt like it just wasn't meant for that and it wasn't sustainable over the long run. However though, this extra small camera cube makes a lot more sense because it's just gonna weigh less overall. Because it being smaller means that there's less weight and less tension on the ends, which makes sure that the bag's ends are less likely to break. Now to me, this is more sustainable setup in the long run, and it also makes it just much more comfortable to wear over those longer shoots. So just make sure not to pack anything overly heavy inside of this setup. And in my original video, I mentioned that using a traditional sling over the small camera cube would be a better option if you wanted a sling. But since Peak Design is marketing the extra small camera cube as a sling, is it any different? Well, the extra small camera cube is very basic as a sling. It's essentially one large open space, and it only has a central compartment. No fancy bells and whistles, no external carry, no zippers or pockets. But if you wanted an area to put small items, this Velcro pocket is great because you can attach it to the wall, put things like SD cards, batteries, and step-up rings inside, and it's nice to add more storage for those smaller items. However, a big issue with that Velcro bit is that it competes for space inside of this cube with other camera gear. Because I used the Viltrox 16mm and Nikon Z30 in here with that Velcro bit for a battery and felt like it was a bit awkward as the camera and lens were in contact with the battery a lot. But dividers is probably what you're gonna be using most inside this bag, and for me, I generally only use one. I'll set it up where I have a Nikon Z30 with the 28mm on one side and then a divider and a 50mm on the other. And if you have a divider that folds down, then you can create extra room at the bottom, which is nice to, let's just say, throw a GoPro in. But with all that being said, I still think that a traditional sling is still better at being a sling than this setup. And it's mainly because the extra small camera cube's connection points are at the direct ends of the cube, which means that the cube won't hold its position very well and will move around quite a bit. And because it's a cube, it just feels like a box that's sitting against your back. However, with a sling, the straps are attached to the part that's closest to the body, and slings typically are made to contour to the back of the body. So in a pure sense, a traditional sling is going to be better overall as a sling. But one major advantage that the extra small camera cube has over a traditional sling is for travel. The extra small camera cube is nice to have for storing gear inside of your suitcase. You can very easily throw the extra small camera cube into pretty much any type of luggage that you want, and it's really nice for holding, gear for lower leverage type of trips, where you're not really going to be out there shooting a ton of photography and you just want something to carry on and bring with you. This setup in particular is really nice for those kind of trips. We're going there primarily to relax, but if you were to capture some photography that was a little bit lower leverage of a situation, I think this setup makes a ton of sense. But what if you're on a trip where you know you're going to be shooting a lot of photography in those higher leverage sort of situations? Then I'd pack the extra small camera cube into my Shimoda Action X30. And in this setup, it's actually perfect because the extra small camera cube can slot in right above my medium cube. And this is usually because I'm bringing my Nikon Z6 III plus a 14-30 and the Z30 plus a 28-400. And I found that I will always need this top compartment, especially for those longer lenses. But once you factor the slide into all this is where the extra small camera cube becomes a travel beast. Because you get to your location and whenever you want to use it as a sling, you simply put the slide on and boom. And especially when you're on those low leverage shooting situations, having a sling is perfect for when you don't need a huge camera setup. This is especially nice for when I go to travel because I will always bring a 3-liter sling for this exact reason. But the extra small camera cube can do the same thing without taking up nearly as much space. And having this setup is extremely convenient, because by itself, it's an incredible storage device that's small and compact. But when paired with the slide, it becomes so versatile. Because to me, the goal of travel gear is to be as compact and small as possible and squeeze as much utility out of it as humanly possible. And if we're talking about that being the goal of travel, I think the extra small camera cube plus the slide definitely achieves that feat. So Peak Design stole my idea. Whatever. But I think this extra small camera cube makes a ton of sense as a sling. Even though it's not better than a traditional sling, it's still a great setup to get, because being able to conveniently turn this cube into a sling is a huge advantage for those who don't want to get a dedicated sling. And having both options to use the extra small camera cube as a camera cube and as a sling is really nice.
Who would I recommend getting this system? If you're a travel photographer or somebody that has those components already and you don't necessarily need a dedicated sling and want something in a pinch, I would absolutely highly recommend
getting the Peak Design extra small camera cube along with the slide. And if you have one or the other, then that's great. Just get the other and boom, you got a sling. It truly is a game changer and very convenient, especially in those travel scenarios. I couldn't have said it any better myself.